The list of stars who've lost relatives to homicide is a long one, and some have even lost multiple family members to violence. Actor Dylan McDermott had been working in Hollywood for decades before the world learned about his mother's murder. In fact, until 2012, even police believed Diane McDermott's 1967 death was accidental. McDermott was only 5 when his mother was shot in her Waterbury, Connecticut apartment as he played outside. More than 40 years later, McDermott asked the police to reopen the case. Waterbury Police Superintendent Gugliotti told the Republican American, he said, "In order for me to survive and to get where I am today, I needed to bury that moment in my life deep within myself." He said, "It wasn't until recently that I've come to the point in my life where I'm able to begin to process all of this."
The last time he saw my mother, they had covered her head because she had a head wound and she was bleeding, lots of blood.
Upon taking a second look, the officers quickly realized the original investigation was flawed. For example, there was no official case file. The autopsy also didn't support the version of events police originally accepted. At the time of the murder, Diane and Dylan were living with John Sponza, Diane's gangster boyfriend, who was killed in 1972. Sponza, the only witness, claimed Diane shot herself while cleaning his gun. Police took this to be true despite many third-party accounts of violence in the home and the fact that there was no gunpowder residue on Diane's hands. Mark Ruffalo's younger brother Scott was murdered in 2008. The killer has never been found, despite there being 2 persons of interest early on in the investigation. In 2010, Ruffalo told the New York Daily News, "The police have barely budged on the investigation. I can't get any answer from them. It's been a very frustrating experience." At the time of his death, Scott was a successful hairdresser working in Santa Monica and Beverly Hills. He was found in his Beverly Hills condo with a bullet in his head, in what was reported as an execution-style shooting. Speaking with HuffPost, Ruffalo confided, "You never get over it, you just get used to it. You get calloused, a little bit harder maybe, so be on guard for that. But take these tragic things and turn them into something meaningful and worthy of the loss. Make it count." Gruesome death has been a fixture in Kelsey Grammer's life, beginning with the murder of his father in 1968. Grammer was 13 when his father was shot by a man trespassing on his St. Thomas property. Then, in 1975, 7 years after his father's death, Grammer's younger sister Karen was kidnapped by a group of men. She was taken from a Colorado Springs Red Lobster parking lot where she was waiting for her boyfriend to finish work. They sexually assaulted her repeatedly before one of them stabbed her to death. She was 18 years old. Karen's killer was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Grammer has so far successfully fought against his release. Grammer read his heart-wrenching 2009 letter to the parole board in an interview with Oprah.
I miss her. I miss her in my bones. I was her big brother. I was supposed to protect her. I could not. It very nearly destroyed me.
Drew Carey met Amy Harwick at a Hollywood party in 2017, and they got engaged the following year. Though they called things off before walking down the aisle, the comedian was still shattered when Harwick was found dead in 2020 at age 38. Harwick, a marriage and family therapist, died by blunt force trauma at the hands of an ex-boyfriend who waited outside her home to attack her. For Carey, her murderer's sentencing closed a very sad chapter. He told People magazine, "Ever since the final sentencing, it feels like we've all let out a breath. The whole process is over now, and there's nothing else to be done." In Modern Family, Sofia Vergara's character Gloria was constantly referencing the criminality and dangerous conditions in her home country of Colombia.
I don't get how one dog keeps you awake when you grew up sleeping through cockfights and revolutions.
And while that is an unfair overgeneralization of an entire nation, Vergara's life story certainly makes it clear why she would identify with her character's words. Vergara actually left Colombia in the late 1990s due to crime, and very soon after, her brother Rafael was murdered. Speaking to Metro, Vergara explained, "We come from a successful family, and he knew he was a target for kidnapping. He always had bodyguards. Then one day he went out alone and was shot dead in a kidnapping attempt. I was devastated." Kidnapping has for a long time been a means for drug cartels to make money by blackmailing wealthy families for the safe return of their loved ones. According to Vergara, Rafael participated in the country's drug trade before he was kidnapped on the streets of Bogota. She told the Daily Mail, "Everything was touched by it. My brother was a nice guy, a good guy, but he took a wrong decision, and unfortunately he paid for it. We all paid for it. When there's a death of someone super special and a good father and a good brother, it destroys the family. My mother and father were never the same." Vergara said that she drew on her real-life experience to play the notorious drug queenpin Griselda Blanco. Rapper Ice Cube grew up at a time when his Los Angeles neighborhood was dealing with a major drug epidemic and a worsening problem with gang violence. As such, he was no stranger to death, something that became clear when he rose to fame as part of the group NWA and later on his own as a solo artist. Even though his music focused on issues such as gangs and police brutality, it was a family tragedy that taught Ice Cube about the fragility of life. He told the Atlanta Black Star about his early experience with violence, saying, "It robs you a little of your childhood. You know it took away a little of what it is to be a kid." The Star was only 12 years old when his half-sister Beverly Jean Brown, herself only 22, was shot and killed by her husband in what was intended to be a murder-suicide. The rapper has said that he often thinks about that time because it forever altered his outlook on life, telling Atlanta Black Star, "It made me realize how cruel the world could be. It made me realize that something as precious as your life can be taken away by somebody you know. It just made me realize life is not a joke. You know, it's precious, and you know it just made me a more serious person." Jennifer Hudson is many things: singer, actor, producer, talk show host, EGOT winner, mother, and on top of it all, a survivor. Hudson lived through something so horrific that it's almost unimaginable, and somehow she came out of the ordeal in one piece, embodying a fighter's spirit. In 2008, Hudson's estranged brother-in-law, William Balfour, became enraged when he stopped by the Hudson family home and saw a birthday gift left for his wife Julia from her new boyfriend. When Julia left for work, Balfour entered the home and killed her mother and brother. He then kidnapped and later killed Julia's young son, leaving both Julia and her sister Jennifer reeling from the triple loss. The story immediately became front-page news due to who it involved, as well as the level of brutality. Hudson found the strength to be at the trial every day, even when photos of her relatives' bodies were shown, and even though she said it made her skin crawl to see Balfour in court. She even took the stand herself, which helped secure the guilty verdict. Perhaps even more extraordinary is the fact that Hudson has been able to find forgiveness for the man who killed her mother, brother, and nephew, demonstrating a strength of spirit that few possess.
I feel like for the most part, it's not his fault. Like, it's what he was taught, how he was brought up. He never had a chance.
In November 2018, it was national news when Tamera Mowry-Housley lost her niece, 18-year-old college student Elena Housley, in a mass shooting at a bar in Thousand Oaks, California. Mowry-Housley discussed the shooting on her show The Real and wrote a thoughtful Instagram tribute to her young relative.
The interesting thing about grief is that you've got to find the balance of moving forward and grieving at the same time.
But mass shootings are sadly nothing new. In February 1993, actor Niecy Nash lost her 17-year-old brother, Michael, a high school student, at the hands of a 16-year-old with a gun. Nash discussed her loss in a 2023 TikTok video, inspired to do so by a school shooting in Nashville.
My only brother was killed on his high school campus because somebody brought a gun to school.
She went on to say, "It's 2023 and there are babies who will never make it home to see their parents. And those parents will forever be in a space where they're like, what was the last thing I said? What was the last lunch I made? What was their last thought or experience? Did they call out for me?" Indeed, school shootings are a problem America has been dealing with for quite some time, but things have only gotten worse in recent years. For Nash, the lack of progress and increase in school murders is unconscionable, as she said on TikTok.
School is the one place where children should be safe.
Actor Patrick Duffy knows exactly where he was and how he felt upon learning that both of his parents had been killed in a robbery gone wrong.
The apparent motive for the killings, robbery, a crime which netted the suspects only $90.
The 1986 double murder occurred when Duffy was on the hit show Dallas. The show's production company quickly flew him back to his hometown in Montana. Police received a tip-off shortly after a group of customers entered the tavern Duffy's parents had owned for more than 3 decades, where they found both owners dead on the floor. This led to a high-speed chase which ended with the arrest of 2 19-year-old men. They had been kicked out of the bar earlier and returned, intending to rob the place. They ended up fatally shooting both of Duffy's parents in the chest when they refused to cooperate. Duffy was able to lean on his strong Buddhist faith to cope with the fatal shooting, and in 2020 he reflected on his loss to people, saying, "There was something about the eternity of life that had set deep inside me. As horrific as that was, I didn't feel disconnected from them." For a long while, journalist and television host Tamron Hall carried guilt about cutting off close contact with her stepsister, Renata, who was killed in 2004.
She was this effortless energy of love.
Hall had pulled back from her sister when it became too difficult to watch her get involved in relationships where she was taken advantage of and victimized. Then Renata's life ended in tragedy. She was found bludgeoned to death in the backyard pool of her Houston, Texas home, and the killer remains unknown. Due to Renata's tendency to date abusive men, Hall has since become involved with various domestic violence organizations in hope that her family's story could help someone else. Hall opened up to people, saying, "No one deserves what happened to my sister. For a long time, I was hesitant about sharing our story. I didn't want to be another well-known person saying, 'Look what happened to me and my family.' But then I said, screw that. I can save a life."